why don't you, I was hoping that you would have prepared a statement or two, Tracy. No, each year this comes around and it's a good opportunity for us to publicly recognize the work of the Board of Education. I think for the members on the Board of Education, you clearly understand, appreciate, and devote a great amount of time to their work here at Greenville Central School District. Not only the school and the faculty and staff, but for the community and the students as well. So every year we go through a number of things, whether it's budget, whether it's policy, capital project. And I know from the chair that I sit in, the amount of time that you folks spend going through and doing your due diligence, asking questions, making sure that you're holding us accountable at the leadership level and in the schools. But I don't think you ever get, certainly don't get paid enough. Let's make that clear. But I do want to just say I do appreciate our leadership team, our schools appreciate the countless amount of hours that you volunteer to be in this position and be sitting at this table for the good of our kids and our community. So I just wanted to thank you publicly for the work you do, and I look forward to another wonderful year with you folks. So thank you for everything.
You are very welcome. I think education is something that is near and dear to everyone's heart that is here, because otherwise they wouldn't put in the time. And I think that when we keep the students in mind and think about the community and everything else, it makes it easy for that. So you're welcome. Would anyone else like to add anything? All right, then I am going to move us on to open forum. So here the Greenville Central School District wishes to facilitate public access to meetings of the Board of Education and to provide an opportunity for public comment at these meetings. Accordingly, the open forum provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts about topics on the agenda. An individual's comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Additionally, comments may be emailed to the district clerk, Daphne Pearson, using the email pearsond@greenvillecsd.org. In order for an email to be read during the meeting, it must be received by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting and state that the email is to be read out loud. Email shall be limited to 600 words. Please note that this is not the time to register complaints that need to be addressed confidentially through the proper channels. Remarks that might be considered defamatory, obscene, profane, stigmatizing, or otherwise impermissible in public forums are prohibited and will be declared out of order. Board members actively listen during open forum, but may not immediately respond to comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Do we have any emails?
We do not.
Okay, then I am going to move us on to our presentations. We have a couple of them, and the first one is for the senior trip, which was being arranged up there. So come on up, and we know who you are, but if you could just hit the gray button, and it's more for the recording, because we can hear you for that. So tell us about the senior trip, and welcome.
Hello, my name is Charlotte Coons. I'm the treasurer of the class of 2025. My other officers couldn't be here today to do sports, but I'm up here on their behalf to propose our senior trip. So we want to go to Boston, Massachusetts, and some of the things we plan to do
responses to all of our many, many audit requests. So there were 5 deliverables that we provided to you. The first is your financial statements. The second is your uniform guidance audit, which is the single audit. The third is your audit of the extra classroom financial statements. The fourth is the required communications letter. And the fifth is the management letter. The school district's annual audit of the financial statements includes the independent auditor's report, which consists of the opinion on the financial statements, and we are issuing an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can give you. The other report that is provided within the deliverable of the financial statements that you'll see is the government auditing standards report. This report requires us to gain an understanding on your internal controls over financial reporting, and we are pleased to say that there are no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies in the financial reporting over the internal controls. The second part of the report mentions regarding the compliance with the laws, the regulations, and the various grant contracts that non-compliance could lead to a material financial statement impact. Again, we are pleased to say that we noted no non-compliance. The school district is limited to retaining 4% of the school district's budget in unreserved, unappropriated fund balance. And the school districts came in at 3.83%, so under the 4% for fiscal year 2024. Then there is the independent auditor's report on compliance with requirements to each major program and on the internal control over compliance in accordance with the uniform guidance. So this is the school district's audit on the federal awards, the schedule of federal expenses spent during fiscal year 24. Again, we are issuing an unmodified opinion on that report, again, highest level of assurance that we as auditors can give you. You'll find within that report as well that we've identified no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies on the internal controls over the major programs tested. Within the report, you'll see that the major federal program that we tested was the Education Stabilization Fund money, so all the grants within that acronym. We are also issuing the school district's annual audit of the extra classroom financial statements. We are issuing an unmodified opinion on those financial statements. So that is a very high-level review of the various deliverables of the financial statements. Again, thank you to the business office, as always, for all of their hard work. We truly appreciate it. And I'm open to any questions that any of you may have for me.
I just had a question related to the extra classroom financials, where you were saying the need for monthly ledgers in a couple of instances. Does it have to be monthly, or can it be quarterly?
We highly encourage monthly, because if it gets to the point of quarterly, then there tends to be a lack of tracking and some loose ends that aren't tied up. So per New York State, the recommendation for the New York State extra classroom guide is for monthly club ledgers to be had. Is there anything stopping quarterly from occurring? No, but the true recommendation is for monthly club ledgers to be maintained.
So this is by the students, each club has a treasurer.
Yeah.
Do they know that they're supposed to be providing monthly ledgers, or is it time for another training?
So we do annual training, so that already happens
Okay.
in September with anybody that's
Okay.
a club advisor. They're encouraged to bring their student treasurers or actually any student officer with them if the kids' schedules allow.
Okay.
But yes, that training happens every September. Go through, we tweak it each year based on things that come up in the audit. But yeah, annual training happens September 19th.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy to
Thank you, Kevin.
We'll move this on to our next presentation, which is a summer school update, and Melissa Macaluso, our
like anything, as there's always improvement every single year, and so I'm going to talk about that as well. Okay. All right, so the whole purpose of our summer tutoring program is to make sure that our students are maintaining their skills. And if we can improve upon them, that's always great, but we want to make sure that they don't lose all the skills that they develop throughout the year. So our summer tutoring format is a little bit different for elementary and middle school, but there are a couple similarities. So in both, we really wanted to keep it to very small groups of students. In Ellis, the groups were 2 to 3 students for each teacher. We were very lucky at Ellis that most of our teachers, except for one, actually taught that grade and was very familiar with the students. So it was kind of like picking up right where they left off at the end of the year, and got to know the families. So that made it really easy for communication. For the young students, we kept to 1-hour sessions, K through 4, and then our 5th graders, we did 2-hour sessions. So we did 1 hour of math and 1 hour of ELA, and the teachers, the 2 5th grade teachers switched the students. So they put them into groups and then split the time with them. And that seemed to work out really well. In middle school, it was a little bit different. We did 2-hour sessions through 6th through 8th for both ELA and math. And we only had a few students who did just ELA or just math, depending on if they failed that course. Even if they were kind of on the edge, we left it up to the families to decide, hey, I know you just passed it, do you want to come and have it? And some took advantage of that and wanted the full 4 hours. So what we did there was we had 2 teachers for each of the grade levels, and similar to 5th grade, they switched their students. So we had a group of students from 8 to 10 and another group from 10 to 12 every day. We had all certified teachers and certified teaching assistants who were substitutes this year. It started the week of July 8th and went through August 16th. Seemed like it flew by. We didn't have transportation available, and that was a drawback for some of our families. We did try to give them, we let them know in the beginning of May that we were considering their student, so we tried to give them enough time, but that was still a hard thing for some of our families. Our students that we invited, so we invited all of our students who were receiving reading or math intervention throughout the year. And we also reached out to teachers because we have some students who were kind of on the edge, who could be receiving some of those services by the end of the year. We wanted to be inclusive and make sure that we weren't forgetting anyone. So we sent out the list of who we had for intervention, who we would recommend, and then we asked the teachers for their feedback too. We also went through our students with disabilities and asked the teachers, both the gen ed and special ed, who they think would really benefit from it. In our middle school, we had students failing 2 courses must attend, and our students who were failing 1 course, it was recommended. And we made sure again that we gave parents a lot of heads up on this so that they could plan. It's always harder as the kids get older and they're involved in lots of sports camps and things like that to really make that commitment. So we really wanted to make sure that we talk to both the students and the parents ahead of time and say, this could be a possibility if your grades aren't improving. And those are tough conversations, but it's better to have those early on than wait until June. And then so overall, we had 10 teachers in our K through 5 with 60 students, and our attendance rate was 76% there. For our middle school, we had 6 teachers, 33 students overall, and attendance rate was 70%. So a little bit less in the middle school. And again, that was due to a lot of both family vacations and different camps that they were involved in. Parents were really good about communicating that ahead of time, that they weren't going to have these involvements, so we put that in. But, that's the reality of summer. the middle school attendance was just getting up early. So our first from 8 to 10, that was hard for some of our kids. And they did reflect that back to me, that they wished it would start at just like an hour later. And then for our high school students, for those who needed credit recovery, those extra credits in order to graduate or towards graduation, we had 14 students for that. So we had, overall in Ellis and middle school, we had 15 more students this year participate than last year, which was good.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So you said that middle school, they have to attend if they fail 2 courses. What if they just don't? What happens then?
So we have some difficult conversations. I think this year we only had one student who could not attend, and the student ended up transferring. But many times we're able to say, okay, we need to have you take 2 English courses, and that's not fun because then you miss out on some of the electives. But we have to get creative because if you need to pass those courses, sometimes you say you need to commit to after-school tutoring. So our middle school teachers hold that every week, and so, let's sit down and have a contract about what that's going to look like. All right, so when we look at now how effective was our time spent with our students, if you look across that time, we used a couple of different measurements, and when I was looking individually at the information, you could tell that there was a correlation between those kids who came for more than half of the sessions and those who didn't, as far as their performance and maintaining. So for our math, for students who were receiving math, we had 50 students overall who took the iReady assessment at the end of June and September. We had in the middle school 22 students overall who had both data points that we could see. 86% of them maintained or increased their percentile rank, and then in Ellis we had 75% maintain or increase their percentile rank for iReady. In ELA, we had 44 students so far who took both assessments. In middle school, we had 13 out of 22, so 59% maintained or increased. And in Ellis, we had 20 out of the 22 maintain or increase, so a 91%.
Just a quick question. When you're saying that includes the students who had strong attendance as well as the students who had weak attendance.
Yeah. So that includes all of them. There were 2 students who only showed up for 1 or 2 days, and I put them out of the equation because I feel like that really you can't say that they got anything out of that time. But yeah, so those are the kids who came for most of the time. Yeah. We also do oral reading fluency, 1st through 5th grade. And so 3 times a year we give them the passage reading fluency, and we look at how were their words correct per minute. Out of the students who took it in the fall and the spring, there were 29 students in 1st through 5th grade, and 86% stayed the same or grew in their words correct per minute, which was really nice. And what was good about that is that the teachers who had started implementing different fluency interventions in the spring really carried those on through the summer, so the kids were used to that practice, and that continued that. So I do think that that was a really positive thing to see, that they were still able to maintain most of them, that growth. In high school, for our students who are on APEX, we had 14 students who took the course, who took different courses over the summer. 5 out of the 14 were successful at completing the courses. The students who were not as successful, most of them were high risk in our access programs and the STRONG program. We tried to set up some structures ahead of time, but it's really at that level on them to finish and to make sure that they complete these courses. Okay. So at the end of everything, we sent out 2 surveys, one to our couple of important questions. So the first one, of course, is the purpose of it. We don't want to put all this time and energy and not have it be purposeful. So we're getting teacher perception and parent perception, and we asked how beneficial was the tutoring to making sure that your child didn't lose any of those skills. The teacher and the parent perception was pretty even. Teacher perception was 86, and the parent perception was 84. That was pretty strong. And when we looked at the feedback, some of it was, as far as the parent perception, that they thought that some of it could be longer. So in Alice, it was only 1 hour. So the parents said that they felt like it could have been a little bit longer of time, or put in an extra day, and so just having 2 days, have 3. As far as like holding on to that information. Then we asked about the tutoring schedule itself. When I sent out the first survey back in the spring to the teachers, it was really built around what the teachers wanted, because we have to have the teachers committee before we can get the kids there. So for the most part, it worked really well for our teachers. The parents, like I said, for the younger students, they felt like just dropping them off for an hour and then picking them up wasn't enough. So we can think about that for next year and see if we could have maybe an hour of reading, an hour of math, and have them there for a longer period of time. But it seemed to work out pretty well, and the teachers, some of them had different absences. We were able to have the subs come in, and the subs were very familiar with the kids, so that was a really easy transition for them. And then how well were things communicated? So this was everything to do with what students should we have in the program, would you recommend, what dates, what times, everything from filling out their paid forms, and then for the communication with parent, we sent out, I called all the families and talked to them, and we sent out letters, we sent out slips, return slips about confirming who their tutor was and when it was and the location. It was really different this year having it up here. It was different from families because they're used to just pulling into the north lot at Ellis and dropping them off like it's as the normal day of school. So there were questions about that, like, well, where do we park and what do we do? So we had to do a little bit more, and Sierra, she did a great job last minute just making sure that everybody knew. She sent out a couple blasts about how to pull up to the circle and get out. So I think it ended up going smoothly. The first week is always different and new, but it seemed like we had some good feedback for the communication. And for our students. So our students, in talking to them, they would like a later start time, at least like 9 o'clock is what they were saying. But they said that it did help them to stay fresh on their math backs especially. And that is something that, in talking to Carrie Caputi last year, she said that's one of the biggest things, that over the summer they can hold that, then you see some good growth in the fall for our students. So they reflected that. Conflicts with other summer activities and vacations, that's always hard. And then for families who don't have the ability to, the transportation is not so easy. But a lot of our students said that this was something that they felt like they grew. They were able to grow a little bit. So overall, it seems like it was a really positive experience. Going into next year, I think we should think about scheduling some of our elementary students, especially, our K1 is a little bit tricky. Their attention span is not quite what like a second and third grader would be. But I think we can look at second, third, fourth and see if we can do 2 hours back to back for those kids. And then the other thing that parents asked for, specifically for the younger kids, was what specific skills are we working on throughout? And so we can definitely provide that. The teachers did spend a lot of time looking at their last iReady diagnostics that were taken in June to really look through and see, well, how did they do? And they talked to each other too, because there was 1 teacher at each, or 2 teachers at each grade level, but some of the kids were in there of other classes. So they spent a lot of time communicating that, so I think we can do that as well. And then keeping the middle school schedule the same, that is something that we're going to have to talk about. I think it worked well, definitely worked well for the teachers. The teachers wanted to be there early, but if we did like 9 And then setting goals with the middle school kids. So we did, Brian and I met with a lot of the middle school students to talk about how they would be in summer school, but setting goals for them I think would be important just to see, keep their engagement and make sure that they understood really why they were here and what they're working towards. So hopefully next year we'll be off to a good start. Any questions?
What would you say you mentioned that there were families here with the absentee as an issue, but were there a lot of families who said, no, I don't want to do this summer? I mean, at the middle school they had to if it was 2 classes, but were there a lot of on the edge kids who said, no, I don't want to do it?
You know what? Not a lot. I would say at Ellis, just offhand, I'm thinking of 2 families that I spoke to that said no. In middle school, there weren't too many either. And, you know, it did come down to a lot of last-minute conversations that happened where at first they thought that they would have to be there for the full time, and then they were able to get the grades up, so we were able to call them and say, you know, you just need to be here for this one chunk of time. Can you commit to that? And that seemed to kind of be the clincher where it was a little bit easier knowing that they just had to come to one. And we also did give them the option about if they wanted to come 8 to 10 or 10 to noon. And I don't know if the kids knew that, but I told the parents that, you know, if it works out better, you can have the later schedule or the earlier schedule. And for some of the parents, I think that earlier schedule did work out, but
It'll be curious to see the students that didn't have the summer slide, like, does that continue? And to be able to sub-segment that group and kind of see their performance longitudinally over at least through the end of the year.
yeah, it will be for sure. And just going through and looking at their individual data, it was cool to see some of the kids that were really getting a lot of momentum in the spring make a big jump from the spring to the fall already.
Right.
And it's always good to have those wins like that where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. And sometimes you see the opposite where something went down and you're like, oh, but then you look at attendance or engagement and that is what it is. You always have those outliers, but overall it went really well.
So if, for example, at the end, with some of the more of the middle school students, if they didn't, then they perform to where they needed to, then what happens now this year in school? I think that was the question that you had asked, or do they have to repeat the course, or how does that work?
Well, so we do have a lot of intervention supports that we put in place. We have our ELA labs, we have our lunch labs. Many of those students we put them right into a tier 3 lab. So in 7th and 8th grade, we have 2 of our teachers who work every single day with a group of students to make sure that they're staying on track with all of their classwork and homework. So that's another thing that we think about is how can we provide them support this year so that they don't have to, you know, they don't get farther behind because we want them to pass middle school and move on to the next grade. So it's really putting a lot of those things in place.
If you had unlimited teachers and resources, how many more students do you think should be included with them?
Well, I mean, it would be nice to have more of our students who are on the edges come in, but we would really need more teachers. And the teachers really like to keep to those small groups because instance, we had two of our students going into third grade who were moving from a self-contained class into a co-taught class this year. And their teacher really didn't recommend them because they didn't notice a lot of slide, but they wanted them to get to know some of the other students and keep it fresh in their minds. We said, yeah, that's fine. If you think it'll be beneficial in any way, you know?
Do you, what kind of communication or advertisement do you for summer school students, or the parents that might want to opt into it, as Angela was suggesting, are they notified of it?
No, no. So that is something that we can work to do better next year, is to say, you know, we've reached out, we've had a variety of spots allotted. We have a few more spots if you'd like to attend. I think that would be a good idea, because we do have some kids who, maybe their ability is there, but their attendance throughout the year wasn't great, or they like that small setting. So they would be more willing to engage during the summer and during the school year.
But at least if I heard correctly, this last year, you didn't do that because you had, for the number of spaces you had,
Right.
students designated that, were reaching out to you.
Yeah, yeah, and we had a good,
Additional space.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to move us on to the discussion portion then. And the first topic will be the capital project update by Mike Bennett.
All right, so just a few things. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to take a look out the window when you came in today to see the high school art room coming along. The shell is there. We have gotten some word that we're waiting on brick colors. One of the things that we had learned through this process is we've got 3 different colored bricks that we would like to match up towards the rest of the building. So one of those color bricks are not available right away, so that's pushing us off a little longer than we had hoped in regards to getting some of that bricked up on the outside. The high school art room is coming along. We're hoping or the middle school art room is coming along. We're hoping to have that back November 1st area, so we can move our kids, middle school kids who are taking art into that space. Down at Ellis, I sent a couple of pictures in our board update to show you the knockout of the windows in the new music spaces, as we're building up the new gymnasium as well. That's coming along pretty well. So we continue to move. We are looking for a very busy December break with cabinetry coming in. Our folks will be building the grounds. Will be working with our contractors as they are getting the shipments of cabinets into those rooms that are going to need them, and so that will be a busy Christmas break. And at the same time, we continue to take a look at working through the plans so that we are going to be able to start the next phase of the project and move much, I won't say quicker, but more efficiently through the second summer here with the work that needs to be done. So we're looking forward to that as well, knowing that we'll have some abatement that will need to take place, and we'll try to do those over some of the February or April breaks so that we can, when the time comes, we can get our folks right in and do that work. I think we got some fans that are going to be installed down at Ellis the 18th, 14th, Columbus Day, right? So, yes, the work continues. So we're excited about that. Anything else you want to add to that? That's where we're at.
I just want to say I do appreciate the fact that you are trying to match the color of the bricks, because I think that the easy solution would be like, oh, it doesn't matter. But in 2 years, we'll be looking at and saying, why, what were we thinking? And really, in order to keep it more seamless, so it all looks more integrated ensure that we're having the right results. So based on the feedback that I have from the last meeting, I put names to each of the different elements, and they're pretty much the same names that we had before for that. So we'll just be going through, and everyone has their projects that they're working on. So for example, the first one, whether it is conducting workshops with the community on a periodic basis, Dave, I have you down for that. And I think one of the ones that we had talked about was possible cell phone usage in schools and everything, so that might be the next one coming up. Kelly, you're coordinating and overseeing the coffee hours for that, and I think you were trying to set up one and has not received any feedback from people that can participate, so please let her. If you could send out an email with potential dates, that would be great. Angela, I have you down for adding in the electronic school communication for the BOE corner to the newsletters that go out. I think you've been doing a wonderful job with that, and so we thank you for continuing along that and writing those. Then under accountability, then we have the top 3 priorities. Eric, if you want to just make sure that these continue to be the top 3 priorities. And then I myself am working with Super Eval in order to ensure all of the objectives and evaluations that are needed are done accordingly. And then under analysis, then we have the kind of orientation, really fostering knowledge and well-informed board members, because we can't ask the questions unless if we don't know it. Now for this one, we might need to, I think here what we need to do is put our new members. So Angela, myself, and Jim really would be under there, whether it would be conducting some of the orientation meetings and things like that. So yes, while none of us are new members, I think that we have had new faculty, new people that have come in, and it can just be a wonderful refresher to kind of sit back and just really understand all the different pieces. So I will put our names under there. Then we are also conducting a review of current policies, and so 3 members on the policy committee are listed there. And then overall evaluating goals of the current committees. Evaluating goals, this, Kelly, is you, correct?
That was Jim and I, yes. We just
Okay.
finished that up.
All right, so I will make those changes and then have the document available. Any questions or thoughts about that? Okay. Moving along, we have, let's see, student representative update. I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Yes, so we are excited to announce that we do have a new student board member. We had, the last moment, 2 applicants submit their names at the deadline, and then this past week had high schoolers vote. And as of 6 o'clock on Friday evening, Tatum Lampin was selected to be the next student member of our Board of Education. So we will get
6400 and 6410, and there was a lot of overlap. So we said, why don't we just fuse them together and then write them in such a way right now with the free meals, because of the funds that are being provided by New York State, then there are some elements in the policy that are not applicable. But we wrote it in such a way that if that were to sunset, the policy is still relevant. We don't have to go back in and rewrite it. So that was one of the things. And then the other thing was, it didn't make sense to have two separate policies, both related to very similar topics, so we just combined them. So that's kind of the background knowledge on that. Any questions or thoughts about that? All right, then I'm going to move us on to action items. I need a motion to approve the minutes for the business meeting of September 16th, 2024.
Dave Mansell?
Any discussion? All in favor?